Hey, what's up? Hey, that's awesome. Okay, first job doing a master cylinder, brake master cylinder. I took it out, um, had to disconnect the brake lines, which were 13 millimeter, and then disconnected from the booster, which was 9/16. Probably another millimeter wrench, but I didn't have it, so that fit. So anyway, I had to disconnect those two and then disconnect the electrical fitting off the side. So anyway, took it out, got the new one. There's the part number. Awesome. And I took out the black plugs that were in here, filled it up, and still started coming out of these ports. Then I screwed in the plastic screws, little things, the little caps, hand tight. And then now I'm pushing this in. It says an inch or 3/4 of an inch. Just kind of keep pushing it in until you kind of get all the air bubbles out. So that's where we are right now. And try to not wear it like my dumbass is. It's probably not a good idea. I hear this shit's corrosive, so I guess we'll see how that turns out. But anyway, that's where we are right now. Okay, I pumped that until the air bubbles were pretty much non-existent, and that thing, it got a little tighter, so I figured that was good enough. So I plugged in the sensor, slid on the wire clip, gave it a tug or two. It didn't come off, so I guess it's secure. So now I'm gonna unscrew the plastic caps and try to screw these on as fast as possible and spill as little as I can as far as the brake fluid, and then reconnect it to the booster. Okay, I just slid it on the end of those bolts so it at least kind of hold it in place. So I'm going to use this angle, go under and back here to start unscrewing these and then screw these back in. Seems to be the easiest access and most leverage I can get to unscrewing these. So you probably have a better way, but that's fine. Okay, got it installed and tightened. Those brake lines are 12 millimeter, not 13. And these 9/16 or whatever millimeter those are, that would actually probably be easier with a socket. Looks like you can get to them both easier with a ratchet socket. But anyway, I cleaned up where that seal goes into the booster. I tried to clean that up so it would seal better, hopefully. And so anyway, yeah, everything's tightened up, and now I guess time to bleed the brakes. Okay, bleeding the brakes on this '05 Dodge Dakota, and I guess the majority of vehicles, the master cylinder is usually kind of in the engine bay towards the driver's side. And so you start with the farthest brake line from that master cylinder, which is rear passenger, then rear driver, then front passenger, then front driver. And so what I did was I got a box wrench on that, not the full box, and then I cracked it open, and then I closed it, snug, so I could pop the hose on. And it was a little loose, so I put a zip tie on it. But I popped the hose on so I could just, crack it open a lot easier, with the regular side of the wrench. And so you connect it, open it, you get your bottle, you make sure it's filled up with either old brake fluid or new brake fluid or a combination of the two, up to the level to where this side of the hose has to stay submerged. It has to stay under the fluid. This is kind of a really big bottle, and I wasted quite a bit of fluid because it didn't click in my slow head that this line absolutely has to go above the bleeder valve. And I've seen most people actually, they drill a hole in the cap of the bottle, and then fit the hole, fit the tube in there, and then drill a tiny vent hole. And I guess that strategy's lost on me because I didn't do that at all. I just made sure it was submerged, and there's no air bubbles in here. So I don't know if that's a step that I'm skipping that I shouldn't, but I guess we'll see. So anyway, I pumped the brakes about 5 times, and it's filled now. It looks clear, no air bubbles. So I'm going to go ahead and close it and then move on to the next tire. Sorry, I figured I'd show this part so it's one less mess that I'll make today. But I'll go ahead and lift this up with the hose still in. Lift it up and over, and then lower it down. And I've already closed the bleeder valve. So now the fluid will run into it. And now it's lifted up to drain the rest of it. So now when I disconnect it, it won't, you know, further make a mess. Man, I'm good with words. And also, after you do each brake line, make sure the reservoir still has a good amount. Keep it topped off in between, because if you suck air, you're just gonna have to start it over again. And always keep the lid on. We don't really have a big problem with moisture and rain here in the New Mexico desert, but I'm sure a lot of y'all do wherever you live. And so that might be a problem, because this thing absorbs moisture really easily. So just, unless you're feeling it, just keep the cap on. Okay, finished with the rear driver. Now we're doing the front passenger, which is a different fitting. It may be a standard, because this feels a little loose, but anyway, the 11mm worked for me, so I opened it, and the fitting, as far as where to put the tube on, was a little bigger too, so I took off the zip tie. So now I couldn't fit a bucket under here, so I've got it propped up right here. But again, make sure it goes up and over, and it stays submerged. And I already checked the reservoir. We're still topped off and good, and the cap's on. So I've got this open, and go pump the brakes on this one. I wanted to show you all this. See the air bubbles? I don't know if that's from actual air on the brake line, or maybe I opened it a little too much, and there's air coming in through where the threads are. So if it keeps doing that, I'll tighten it just a little bit, see if that helps. Okay, it's doing good now, but it started to drip a little bit. So I think there was actually air, but I'm gonna go ahead and tighten it a little bit before I continue. All right, that seems better. It's holding, no air bubbles. So now let me see if I can just lower this. And drain that before I pop it off. All right, cool. Okay, finished the brake lines. Tried to pump the pedal. It gave me a little bit of pressure, but it kept sinking to the floor. Turned the vehicle on, pumped, did the same thing. So I turned it off, checked the master cylinder, because there was a prior leak before. I could see where it was, but the master cylinder wasn't leaking, so I checked the tires, or behind the wheels, and there we go. There's a leak, which turns out is a wheel cylinder. So I guess that'll be my next video. But anyway, that's where we are now as far as the diagnosing. So fix one thing and find out you got to fix another, but c'est la vie. All right, so here, unless you had a leak like I did, you should be done with the job. Again, safe than sorry. Test the brakes by pumping them and building pressure before the vehicle is turned on, after the vehicle is turned on, and even when you put it into gear, have that e-brake ready just in case the brakes still fail for some reason, and definitely make sure there's nothing in the way that you might run into. So I don't care if you subscribe or like, I just care if it helps, and I hope it did. So till next time, thanks.